Yo, Internet, welcome back to the Jongravesshow. Telling everybody about a game that was just announced at PAX West, and that's Nightmare Creatures. Honestly, for what Nightmare Creatures has brought to the gaming world, or at least for it being back on PlayStation and on N64, actually I really did like it. I mean, again, as a kid, it did scare like the living hell out of me. But now, as an adult, I actually kind of appreciate like that the game was what it was. Now, we don't know too much about its release date. The only thing we know is that the art style is basically supposed to pay homage to those old school days, because when you do look at the trailer, it does look kind of minimalistic, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Also, give or take, like with the article, I think the person who wrote this article, I don't think that they really understood what Nightmare Creatures was, or like if they haven't played it in a very long while. Because originally, Nightmare Creatures was not a survival horror game. It was actually a beat 'em up game, a horror themed beat 'em up game where you had to get around get around the streets of London, which were basically maze-like, and you had to flip switches to get from one place to another, and you had to beat like all these bosses like in a very serialized kind of way. If anything, it's more or less like what Bloodborne was a modern day take on Nightmare Creatures. So I kind of like that. Until then, though, that's basically what I gotta say about this article. I am actually happy to actually see this game coming back, and I do wonder what they will necessarily do with it. Yeah, doing a tiny announcements or gaming announcements every now and again. But today's topic is the new Catherine game, which was teased by at the end of a 30-minute live stream from Atlas. Which, to be fair, looking at what happened to Vincent and basically the multiple endings like in that game, because again, the story, how it's structured, the way how things play out, it's structured very similarly to a Shin Megami Tensei game, especially once you find out the real reason why Catherine with the C is after Vincent, you know. So I kind of really do want to see a sequel to that. However, the question remains, though, is that how would this necessarily play out? Because this can go two ways. Either the Catherine from the first game comes back and now she's messing with another guy who has a girlfriend named Catherine with a K, you know, or better yet, she just switches her name to kind of be a little bit offset. But then again, with the title being Catherine, you know, like the villain has to be Catherine unless that's just a title and they don't necessarily really care like where like the story goes, as long as it's good. Or better yet, like it's probably just like a sub story of other things that are like all these little anthology stories of all of the other people who were trapped in the dreamscape along with Vincent, which also could be good, you know. But looking at how games like this are, or at least how certain sequels are, they don't necessarily really do them like on par like with the other person. Like they kind of just either start the whole story all over again with a brand new character, or they try to make a brand new villain, which most likely, give or take, is like it might not mimic the first game, but then again we might actually switch. We might actually be playing as Catherine, like trying to actually kind of test all of these guys and whatnot, and test the morals of their relationships and everything. But that is what I gotta say about that. See you next time. I'm out.